What's the biggest sacrifice you made for nothing? When I was a kid, my parents always told me they were saving for my future. Every time I asked why we didn't go on vacations or why I had to wear the same old sneakers for years, they said all the extra money was for my college. So I trusted them and never asked for anything big. I stayed home when my friends went to amusement parks, worked part-time jobs after school, and skipped prom and class trips because I believed I was being set up for something better. Senior year came, and I worked hard, got decent grades, and was accepted into a good state college. It wasn't the best school in the world, but it was something I felt proud of. I printed out the acceptance letter and walked into the kitchen smiling, ready to tell my parents it was time to finally use the house money. But instead of the excitement I expected, my mom looked away and my dad scratched his neck awkwardly. They told me they had sold the house 2 years ago because life had gotten expensive, the money was gone, and I was smart and would figure something out, just like a lot of other kids had to. I stood there in shock because I had believed every word they ever said about that house. I had sacrificed everything fun about being a teenager because I thought the future they promised was real and now it was just gone. So I did what I had to do. Applied for student loans, picked up 2 part-time jobs, and stayed up until 3 a.m. studying after long shifts. I lived on instant noodles and cheap canned soup, convincing myself it would all be okay somehow. At first I thought that was the worst part, but life had a different plan. At my second job, during night shifts at a diner, I met a girl with a messy ponytail and a loud laugh. She made the long shifts feel a little easier. We started talking, hanging out after shifts, and getting coffee at a gas station because it was the only place open. We got close fast, closer than I expected. A few months later, she told me she was pregnant. I was 19 years old, working 2 minimum wage jobs, already drowning in debt, and now about to be a father. I panicked because I had no idea how to handle something that big. The first people I thought to call were my parents, even after everything. But when I told them what had happened, they said I was an adult now, needed to handle it myself, and offered no help or kind words, just reminded me I was on my own. So I stopped counting on them for anything. I dropped out of college because there was no way I could afford it anymore and picked up a third job, working weekends at a warehouse. My girlfriend and I moved into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment that smelled bad. It was hard. Some nights we had nothing but cereal for dinner and some nights we barely spoke because we were too tired. But we made it work. When our daughter was born, everything changed. I looked at her tiny face and promised her I'd never break my promises to her. 3 years later, we had a small house, and I started a handyman business, fixing broken fences and leaking sinks for people around town. My wife worked part-time at the library, and our daughter drew on the walls like it was her job. We didn't have much, but we had enough. A few months ago, my parents called and told me their new house had been taken away, their savings were gone, and they had nowhere to go. They asked to stay with us for a while. I looked around my small living room at the crayon drawings on the walls and at my wife smiling as she played board games with our daughter.